Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coin Drop Podcast. This is beta episode number 16, and today we got a special guest. Tim has returned to the show.
Yes.
Tim, it's been a while.
I
It's
have
been a while, man.
been like 3 weeks to a month, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Longer
yeah.
than it should have been.
Yes. Not gonna ask what happened, just ask how you been.
Life happens, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
happens. So
Yep, sure does.
it's been an up and down ride.
Yeah.
I think I'm in a better place right now. That's what matters.
Hey.
For those who have watched in the past, I now have a short beard and short hair. So yeah, things changed. It's changed.
He's half respectable, and I look less respectable, so we're going the right direction. We're
There we
definitely
go.
on track here.
That's how it should be.
Playing anything fun lately? Like I said, or like you said, I guess it's been almost a month.
I basically haven't played shit the whole time.
Damn.
I did install Red Dead Redemption 2 on my
Mm.
Steam Deck, and played, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half of it, and it runs surprisingly well. And so I plan on trying to see if I can actually beat the game this time.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's actually going to be one of our topics. Topics. That's going to be one of our topics in a bit here.
Kind of.
Sort of, a little bit. But yeah,
We'll
it's
see.
got me that leak, which we will discuss soon, has got me kind of wanting to go play 2, because I still haven't played it. I played some PUBG last night and some Blood Hunt last night with Mike, and since upgrading my PC, I'm now pushing pretty much anything at 2K with upscaled resolution, 170 frames pretty much all the time. It's been fantastic. So I would love to see Red Dead 2 kind of capped out on my system. I think that would look great. So
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of mods to make it
Oh,
look
hell yeah.
gorgeous too.
oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of mods, let's start off with some, I guess, big news. To me, a little bit disappointing news, but some big news in the world of Final Fantasy XIV. Their latest expansion is adding a quote-unquote graphics overhaul, right?
I don't know if it's considered a graphics overhaul. I mean that's what this website calls it.
Sure.
And honestly, I actually haven't seen whatever Square Enix's official words are. But they have talked about doing a graphics update. And the update is pretty much as you said. It's a little disappointing. It was about a year ago or so they talked about potentially updating the graphics in the game, at least portions of it.
Right.
And I want to say the original target images were better than what's actually coming. And there are some things that are really nice. Like there's a better lighting system, which lighting alone makes a huge deal in games. This one's kind of a minor update, but it's still better. You've got better LOD, you've got better FOV, you've got better ambient occlusion, things like that. Anyways, it definitely looks better. There's more density in the game, and that can be in the form of more people on the screen. There could be more objects on the screen. There's a little video that they show where it's in the Shadowbringers expansion pack, where in one of the areas there's just flowers freaking everywhere, and there's at least twice as many. They're more vibrant, and they look better, and with the better lighting, it looks increased as well. The armors are being increased, better reflections, and just more detail and all sorts of other stuff. The models look like they've been touched a little bit, but it's just minor. Like they didn't touch the hair, which that alone was like, that's kind of unfortunate, because the hair is from like PlayStation 3 era. It's just bad.
Yeah. It's showing its age. I gotta be honest. I stopped playing 14 back when Shadowbringers was
Shame.
new. Yeah. But hey, in my defense, I intended to go back to it once I found out that they were doing this graphics overhaul. Well, I'm a PC player, and for anybody who plays on PC, this is incredibly underwhelming if you have dived into any of the mods for Final Fantasy XIV, because this is literally just bringing it up to the standard I've been playing the game since Heavensward. It is not really a graphics overhaul. They didn't really change the models, add poly counts, or anything like that. It really, to me, looks almost exactly like they just went, hey, you guys put this on the Nexus Mod Manager? Let me go ahead and borrow that and make it an official update. Which is not a bad thing, because now the console players get a buff, right? But like as a PC player, it looks like what I've been playing since.
Yeah, they didn't specify why they didn't go bigger. When I was really hoping for something not necessarily like PS3 to PS5 jump, but I was
Right.
expecting at least everything to be touched up a little bit. I was really hoping animation quality might increase. I was really hoping that the
Polygon
like
count,
when
man.
they should. Yeah, polygon counts. Yeah, something like that. But at the same time, I can sort of understand. One, they said that the PS4 is still going to continue to be supported. They're not getting rid of that. I mean, there's like 140 million PS4s out there, and
Yeah.
obviously that many people aren't playing. But there's a lot of players on PS4. Is my point.
Yeah.
But my best guess is that if they increase the graphics too much, it would kill PS4 compatibility,
Right.
and then it would also kick a lot of people on PC off as well because their PCs wasn't be able to support it.
Well, you
And
say that, but I was, prior to jumping on this with you, I was looking at the minimum required specs for the graphics update. Let me just run this through with you guys.
oh, it's minimal.
It's very
so
minimal.
small.
If you don't have a computer that can do this, you don't have a computer from this decade. And by this decade, because we're only 3 years into it, I mean since like 2013.
So
go ahead.
I was just going to say that that's why I think that they went with the minor update, is because they don't want to kick people off. They obviously have the stats of what people are playing on, and therefore they felt that there was a significant enough people playing on potatoes that they don't want to kick them off the game.
We got our
I mean,
we got our editor in on chat right now listening in, and he said, man, I don't know if my 4090 will handle it. It's the minimum system requirements are Windows 10, Intel i7 6700 or higher, which is very low tier considering we're in like the 1400s now, I think. 8 gigs of RAM. If you're not running 8 gigs of RAM, are you on a potato? Do you play video games on your computer? Because 8 gigs of RAM is like Minecraft level requirements.
It's if anything requires 8 gigs these days, you're playing something from a really long time ago.
Yeah, Sims 2. You need the biggest requirement here is 140 gigs of space on an HDD or an SSD, and that's not even that wild anymore. Graphics card, you're looking at an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 970, which you can pick up secondhand for probably about $50 pretty much anywhere, or an AMD RX 480. So not very high specs at all. Resolution screen has to be 1280 by 720 or higher. So it's 720p lowest, and that's the minimum, right? So and I get like not wanting to push off PS4 players and being limited there. I do totally understand that. But you can't say that a game that released on PS3 couldn't have been updated to look like late gen PS4. Granted, it would have taxed the system a little bit more. I get it. And you got to kind of wonder how much they want to put into the game at this point, too. In terms of graphics.
My best guess is that this is sort of a trial period, because they've added features over the course of the generation of the game. You know, they've added wet clothing, and they've added.
There's definitely been overhauls to certain mechanics and certain scenarios of the game, like adding swimming. You didn't used to be able to swim.
Oh, I'm not talking about features. I'm talking about just simply graphical updates. They've actually done some minor graphical updates over the course of
the grapes, right?
life.
That's the big one. Everybody knows the very low poly grapes. I think on their last fan festival, they like handed out low poly.
Yes, the low poly grapes. Squishies, which I thought was pretty great. And then actually, there's an entire area in Final Fantasy 16 with grapes everywhere, and they're gorgeously shaped.
Awesome.
It has to have been a reference to 14. It
definitely. I mean, it's Yoshi P. He's just nodding to himself.
I honestly, I think it's kind of a mixture of they're playing it safe and they don't want to push too many people off, but also they're seeing if they can get away with it, but not put too much money into it. Even though this is Square Enix's moneymaker, like literally, this is what makes Square Enix money.
Oh hell yeah! It's a big game.
However, I'm almost curious. We know that the base game, at least, is what we've called in the past, or at least what they've called in the past. What is it? Code spaghetti. Like they have no freaking clue, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the game is basically designed opposite. Instead of giving you the best model that possible and toning down for hardware, they kind of do the opposite. Give you the worst model and tone it up. And that's obviously not typically how most games are developed. And anyways, I wonder if they haven't figured it out, maybe, or maybe this is a trial for. I mean, the game still has like 25 million players. It has a shit ton of money coming in still.
I mean, it's a great game. So, it's hands down still to this day probably the best MMO on the market. There was nothing else to beat it yet. There just isn't. That's just my opinion, but I think that's objectively by the player count a reasonable statement.
Yes, and I think, I guess I'm just being hopeful, maybe,
Yeah. I
that they're actually going to put something real on it eventually.
Well,
You know?
the back in the day when I played EverQuest when it was new, the graphics overhaul from EverQuest Classic to like the upgraded EverQuest, which I think happened around the third or fourth expansion. It was into the mid early 2000s. It was a pretty substantial graphics overhaul. Like
Yeah,
considering
it was
where it
big.
was and then where it got to, it was a really large leap. So seeing this be kind of a small one has me questioning a bit, and I think maybe the Code Spaghetti might be part of it. I almost wonder I almost wonder if there's a point where they can almost separate out the games. You know what I mean? Like, not necessarily make a whole new Final Fantasy, but the code at this point, like, you can't tell me Endwalker and Beyond, or even Storm Shadowbringers, is the same structure as the base game. Does that make sense? Like, the
No,
code
no, yeah,
has to
it's
be
definitely not.
different. So, at
Well, so
what
they
point can they cut it out and make it like transfer your data to this new game where they can optimize, they can change stuff, they can figure it out because it's not the Code Spaghetti of the past.
So they actually have said with this graphics update that the new areas and the new armor and the new everything that's new with the expansion pack is going to have the new graphics. And since there's already so much armor and mounts and everything else in the
Right.
old game, everything before Dawn Trail or whatever it's called, everything before that is not going to be updated, at least not right away. But they're going to slowly increase the graphic quality on old content, and they're obviously going to do so all the way back to the base game too.
Right.
The game does have a history of being totally rebuilt, though. That's what made the game good in the first place.
Right.
And so it
Yeah.
kind of makes you wonder, like I said, are they going to potentially do that again as far as just totally overhaul the graphics to be something more modern, especially when you consider that with this new expansion pack, it's literally starting an entirely new story arc.
So let me ask you
Where
this. Let me ask you this: as without any spoilers, have they kind of moved that direction? Being somebody who played the original Final Fantasy XIV, was there when Final Fantasy XIV ended, where you saw the narrative going in the direction they were taking to go to a realm reborn. Without any spoilers, do you see that maybe happening again narratively? Because I imagine you're much further than I am at this point. Like, I imagine you're probably in Endwalker, if not through Endwalker at this point.
No, I'm actually not quite at Endwalker
Okay,
yet. I'm pretty close to it,
but
though.
you're in
And
Shadowbringers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm pretty close to it, and I'm actually going to be working towards that later.
Gotcha.
As for narrative, I don't know. I don't know if I can say so. The new expansion pack, I'm trying to figure out how to. I mean, actually, this wouldn't be a spoiler.
Okay.
The way the game essentially ends with Endwalker, because I have a rough estimate, especially based on the new expansion pack information.
Sure.
They're making it sound like this is the vacation, more or less.
Interesting.
Because you've saved the world. You didn't just save the world; you saved the universe.
Right. Yeah.
And
Because I remember them building towards that even
break.
before where I'm at in Stormblood. I remember them kind of building towards that. The heroes of light and the heroes of darkness. Right. Like that whole conflict. The Hydaelyn and that whole
Hydaelyn versus Zodiark.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've constantly throughout the storyline mentioned that you deserve a break, you deserve a much needed break, but that it gets cut short all the time, and so I think they're finally trying to give you one. But it makes me wonder, like, what's the conflict going to be then, or will there be? I mean, we already know it's a new expansion, so of course there's going to be new jobs, of course there's going to be new dungeons,
right?
But like, where's the conflict in there? And they've given a rough a rough story arc. Basically, I guess you're going to this new world, whatever it's called. I can't remember the name at the moment, but this new world, and you're supposed to help decide who the new king is, or something like that. So I don't know. We'll see. One thing I can say is that Estinian's seems to be anyway, going to be a focal point in the story, and thank God, because he's been needing to come back since Shadow or not, but Heavensward. So that'll be nice.
Yeah. I don't want to spend too much more time on this because we do have more content to get to. Maybe we'll touch on this a little bit more on our Patreon side. But before we go, I want to bring up Mike says he wants to see Final Fantasy XIV look like Final Fantasy 15.
100%.
Yeah,
yes,
I agree.
Please.
That'd be fantastic. I also want to
make it look like 15 and I'd be happy.
Yeah.
But 16 would be nice.
I want to say Yoshi P wearing a TMN t-shirt on stage is the new job pizza delivery boy. Because we already have ninjas. Do we
We
have
already
pizza
have
delivery
Ninja,
boy?
right?
Do we have pizza delivery boy? Because
Who
dude, I
knows?
will come back to the game to deliver some pizza.
It would be pretty sweet if they had something that was. I mean, they said that there's going to be 2 new DPSs, but like maybe it has something to do, like you said, with like the crafting classes or something. That'd be interesting to see.
Dude, a delivery class would be so like a legit like merchant who like runs loot to
Yeah,
people in
that'd be
dungeons,
sweet.
runs potions, whatever. Like
Oh,
you can hire a guy, right? So like you're a culinary class, you make the fucking meat and shit that everybody needs for their dungeons, and then there's a literal class that can just jump in and be like a mobile merchant to sell that shit to them in dungeon for
imagine
like raids
the
and stuff
Resident
like
Evil
that.
4 one. What you need opens up
What are you
jacket.
buying? Yeah, that'd be
Right?
great. That'd be great.
Yeah. So just last little bit about 14. They're actually having a crossover soon.
I was
that's
gonna say
be put
that too. Yeah, that's a weird
into
one.
Manderville Gold Saucer, which is basically the chill area. That's like a casino. They're having a Fall Guys crossover, but
Yep.
they're putting a mini game into that, and it looks freaking awesome.
It looks really weird to see Final Fantasy 14 characters running around on a Fall Guys course, but I'm here for it. It looks great.
Heck yeah.
I want to get back
Gold
into
Saucer
the game.
needs more stuff like that.
I want to get back into the game. I really do. I intend to.
Should.
I think their best bet. I want to
can
ask you
afford
this
it.
before we move on. I got one last question for you because you got a very firm stance on this, and I want to put this in your court. How would you feel if Final Fantasy shelved old content, Heaven's Sword and back, so that they can overhaul the graphics and do all the stuff they need to do? Because as a new player, do you really need to play 1.0 at this point? Or can they make a cutscene that explains the story up to Heaven's Sword? So if they chose to shelve the content to allow them to do an actual graphics overhaul to rebuild the game, how would you feel? Because you're so against that with Destiny.
First off, fuck you, Bungie, for making that a possibility. I don't know, but they actually just announced that the free trial is going to start including Stormblood. So that would kind of defeat the purpose of the free trial, trying to get people into the game.
Not if you started at Heaven's Sword. If you started at Heaven's Sword.
But would it be necessary to get rid of those in order to overhaul everything?
Well,
that's
if the Code Spaghetti's in the 2.0.
Which, yeah, I mean, that's fair. I would say no, you really don't have to play them because it's such a early story that doesn't really mean anything so much anymore. But it is an intro, right? So I don't know. That'd be something that have to be considered heavily.
But you could tell that entire story with an opening cinematic.
Oh yeah, they could easily do that. They could maybe even give you like almost like well, hell, they wouldn't need to because it's not a choice-based game.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they could have just an opening cutscene that's like a half an hour long or something like that.
It doesn't even need to be, it doesn't even need to be that crazy extensive. But like, even if they just made like, hey, this is the story, now you're in Heaven's Sword. Like, start it with the opening scene of Heaven's Sword.
I don't think I like the idea, and I don't think it's necessary. But I understand I would sort of understand, especially because of the vast different style of game. But still, I would still say no. I don't like the idea.
Okay.
Actually, I said the last thing about 14. The actual last thing is that it was actually officially announced for Xbox Series.
It was,
which is good. More players means more players and more ways to play it. I don't think all 2 people that are on Xbox Series X are going to want to play it, but you know,
it means that
maybe,
you DPS mains out there won't have even longer queues. You'll have slightly shorter queues because now you got 2 more people out there playing the game.
or yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily think they have a market on Xbox, but I also know people that for some reason choose to be exclusive to that ecosystem, and so maybe they want to play it. I mean, that's good. More ways to play is better.
Always. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about a recent kind of leak, kind of speculation. It's been around for a while. PlayStation 5 getting a Slim or a Pro. Right? Like we talked about this before the
Slim
Sony
and a Pro, essentially.
Slim and a Pro, I guess, right? So we talked about this briefly before the Sony press conference this year because this marks is it the 4-year? 2-year. Third year anniversary with the PS4. We saw the PS4 Pro announced 3 years after its release. We're now past that metric with PS5. What do you think what do you think of this idea that they're moving away from the liquid metal cooling, which I don't have a PS5, so I don't know how much of a difference that makes. I do remember my old Pro that I really don't even touch anymore was a fucking jet engine. I had to clean that thing out every couple of months to keep it from sounding like a jet was taking off my house. So I don't know how much quieter the 5 actually is. But what do you think about like the idea of moving away from that cooling system? Does it make a difference?
So it's not just the liquid cooling system. It's not actually a liquid cooling system. It's
The liquid metal.
the
It's
the liquid
the
metal that's on the die itself. That's
right.
on the CPU. It's a small. I've actually seen it. It's like a tiny little, probably like a 1/3 of an inch little thing that sits on top of the CPU. But I mean, they call it liquid metal cooling in multiple articles, but it's because people are stupid. But basically, it's not just that. If I've torn apart the system to clean it on more than one occasion,
Sure.
and practically like one, it's almost as big as a torso, like an adult male torso.
It's not a small
huge.
console. It's not a small
Yeah,
console.
it's huge, and half the damn thing is basically your heatsink. It's
Right.
freaking huge, but also almost half of the top of it is a fan. It is an exhaust fan. So it's got the liquid metal cooling on your CPU. It's got a gigantic freaking heatsink, and it's got a giant fan all in one, and you can't hear the thing. It's so quiet. You basically have to literally touch your ear to the console to hear it.
That's really nice.
It's a wonderfully quiet. Supposedly getting rid of that, the reason they're willing to get rid of it is because this is literally the first piece of technology that used liquid metal cooling for the CPU ever, as far as being mass produced.
Right.
But also because supposedly the new hardware runs significantly cooler, that it's not necessary anymore. It would significantly drop costs, I would imagine, and it would also be safer. And if it's not necessary, it's not necessary. There's plenty of options that don't use. I mean, plenty. Everything else in existence doesn't use it. So why should they? If it's not necessary anymore, if they can run the system cooler, then why? You know. Mm-hmm. So I think that's interesting. As for the hardware, the Slim and the Pro, they're so wildly different. The Slim is basically, I actually don't know how much of a Slim it's going to be, but the Slim is supposed to be essentially a digital only, but there's going to be an option to buy a disc, kind of like the way the Xbox 360 did it, where you can buy a disc drive essentially for it.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if it's going to attach to the system. I don't know if it's just going to be a cord that attaches to the system or what. Nothing has been confirmed, but it's supposed to allow you the option. And my guess is it'd probably be the same price as disc version PS5 would be anyway. But it gives people the options, you know? And I know a lot of people that bought the disc or the digital only and were unhappy in the long terms that they weren't able to, say, buy physical versions or whatever.
Sure. I mean, having the option there is nice. Personally, I've moved to a point where I'm just digital at this point. Mike has issued a correction here. He said that Asus ROG has laptops that are mass produced with liquid metal on the CPU and GPU as well. Sony is actually the second to do it. I don't know if that's true. That's what Mike has said, but seeing as how he's free to like Google and find stuff, I would imagine that Asus ROG probably did it, but it was probably very expensive, very top of the line models, not something that was consumerly bought on the scale that the PS5 was.
I have a feeling he's wrong, because I specifically remember that being like a big deal about the PS5, that it was the first mass-produced product to do so.
Well, we will find out, and we'll issue a correction next week if needed.
Very true, very true. Now, the big one for me is they're calling it Project Trinity for some reason, but it's not the first time that Sony has made essentially Matrix references with their.
I was gonna say Jack Me In
code names.
Tank. Jack Me In Tank.
Yeah. It's not the first time. I mean, they had
a Project Neo,
this thing? They had a Project Morpheus, which was the PSVR, right?
Dodge this. Just all the quotes.
The initial PS4 was a decent system. The PS4 Pro was a step up. It wasn't massive, but it did allow for 4K gaming.
I would say that was the biggest jump up, was that it had proper 4K capabilities.
Yeah, and there were games that did it. And it took a minute for them to actually.
HDR.
Yeah, that's true. True, the HDR was really nice. Anyways, the reason I mentioned that is because it was more of like a small upgrade. It was a nice upgrade, but it was still relatively small. Mm-hmm. These rumors are basically claiming this thing's going to be practically twice as powerful as a PS5, and that sounds like a lot.
Well, so hold on. When did PS5 launched? What, 3 years ago? 2020.
November will be 3 years. Yeah.
Okay, so it launched in 2020. What gen of graphics card came out in 2020? Because that's gonna change some things. Card in 2020. I believe we were on the 30 series graphics cards 2020.
I think the 30 series is right.
No,
sure
2070.
It might be the 20 series.
20 series.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
so
because they were saying this was essentially
consider
true.
how far our graphics tech has come in those years. To give you an example, my 1070 Ti that I was running prior to getting my new card had 8 gigs of visual RAM. 8 gigs. I have a 7900 that has 24 gigs of RAM in it. That is 4 times the amount of visual processing. And granted, that card was old, but like even the 2070s, I believe they capped out at like 16 gigs of RAM. RTX 2070 Ti. Let's see. Yeah, 16 gigs DDR4 RAM. So we're at least double that at this point. Well, yeah, double that at this point. 24 gigs. No, that'd be 32. So we're a good chunk above that at this point. Not to say that
things, and not even just that. It's also increased as far as the AI side of things.
Right.
DLSS is on its 3rd iteration, and you've got FSR and all these other different options, and they could easily implement that stuff. Which actually they've even mentioned that this new system is going to be even more, I don't know, hardware enhanced for ray tracing as well. So like,
it sounds great.
I mean,
it sounds great.
It sounds phenomenal. We're talking almost a double increase on cores. We're talking.
I mean, that tracks with modern tech, right? Like if it's being in development right now, that tracks.
Well, so that like you said earlier, with how much technology has advanced in a short period of time, there's pretty much been a law. I always forget the dude's freaking name that they named it off of, but basically technology gets twice as good every 2 years. And that's easily capable within a 3-year span. But also, obviously, consoles that release with old technology because they can't put the best of the best in there for a decent price. So it really just makes you wonder. I mean, they're saying that this is going to run 4K 60 pretty much constantly on every game ever, and that's going to even have an option for 8K, which it's going to be sort of silly. Yeah. Almost nobody has 8K TVs, but that's kind of where we were at with PS4 back in the day.
Games aren't really designed for 8K. Most 8K stuff you're going to get in a graphics mod via Nexus Mod Manager or something like that. It's going to be PC based, and that's the only place you're really going to be able to take control of that or take utilization of that. Mike has issued here that PS5 came out when it was slotted in between the 2070 Super and the 2080 in terms of raw rasterization. So it is a pretty large jump from there to where we are now. Like you said, it's not likely they're going to slap a 4090 in this bad boy and send it out
Obviously
to market.
Not, yeah.
Right, that's not going to happen. But it is a jump in tech regardless, right? So here's the thing I got to say. That all sounds great. We haven't even utilized the PS5.
Not properly. There's been a very small handful of games, probably 3 to 4 that really looked impressive. But even some of those were cross-gen games.
Right.
And I'm ready for them to. I mean, they finally seem to be like abandoning last gen, thank God. And there's quite a few games coming out that look fantastic, and so I'm really looking forward to multiple games because of that. But there's even games like, say, Final Fantasy 16. It was originally a PS4 game, but they ditched out on PS4 and then really put some effort into PS5. But you can still see it started as a PS4 game, in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So, like you said, we're almost 3 years in, and there's very little that's truly pushed the hardware. You can see it in frame rates and resolution, and most notably loading, but typically not in your graphics output. So even if we haven't used what we have, it would still be really cool to be able to push even more. Especially for a mid-gen refresh. When Microsoft, in the whole lawsuit with Activision has been going on, they basically stated that the next consoles aren't coming before 2028.
Right.
So that's at least 5 years away. So why wouldn't we want a mid-gen refresh, which the rumors are stating late next year, and so like November next year before it happens. But still, it even makes me wonder, though, like such a massive jump in power, even if it's not 2 times as powerful, that's still more powerful than the PS4 to PS4 Pro and Xbox Series X. But the thing is what about price? Yeah. How are they going to make a $500 console
the cost of a graphics card? Because
yeah,
graphics cards now, I mean, I paid $1,000 for my GPU, right? Like that's just one component to making a computer now. So like, how are they going to
Yeah.
push that kind of tech? Yeah, I get it. The other side of this is Unreal Engine 5. Currently,
Yeah,
I
that's
just
true.
Googled it. I just Googled it real quick. Don't know how accurate this is, but it's on IGN.com. So I'm going to assume it's accurate because they're the only ones that make money doing industry shit.
Yeah,
61
basically.
games exist on or will exist on Unreal Engine. This is 61 games. Looking at this
Almost
list,
none.
half of them are not even out yet. Half of them.
Yep.
Half of them don't even have real titles yet. 61 games using Unreal Engine 5. We haven't even begun to utilize the tech of the current gen. So a mid-gen refresh almost seems pointless to me. I don't have a PS5. I haven't seen its limits. I haven't seen how well it runs, but it doesn't feel like we've even utilized what's there.
So, like I said, I agree with you that we haven't really utilized it yet. Obviously, Sony has with various games using their custom engines, depending
Sure.
on the studio that's making it. I mean, not Miles Morales, but Insomniac has definitely been one of the people pushing the PlayStation in as far as hardware and graphics are concerned. I would say, I was going to say Naughty Dog, but not really.
Yeah.
I meant to say Guerrilla. Guerrilla's definitely pushed it. I would even say that Hideo Kojima is going to be pushing it as well, but there's still so little. And I agree with you. I sort of feel like, yeah, it's not necessary. But again, 5 additional years. My wife just sent me something that something's not okay. I hate to step away, but I think it might be necessary.
Oh.
I would say, yeah. Yeah. Let me go.
Yeah. I'll
Sorry,
rant for a little
I'll
bit.
be
Do your
back.
thing, dude. We can edit this out of the audio side podcast. That's fine. Just real quick for our Twitch viewers, I guess since this will be definitely cut out for the audio viewers, I'm going to run through the list of games that are on or will be on Unreal Engine 5, because a lot of them are still very much deep in development and probably not seeing the light of day anytime soon. You got Alien Survivors, Arc Age 2, Arc 2, some Russian project that I can't even pronounce. It's Arthur, maybe this is Polish, Arthur Lakzuski project. It looks kind of like a survival horror. Ash is a creation MMO Tim and I are both super fond of. That is never coming out anytime soon, unfortunately. Wukong, the Souls-like monkey game. Blight Survival also looks like a really great game, still very deep in development. Chrono Odyssey, Code 2 Jim Jong, no idea what that is. Dead Drop, Dragon Quest 12, Dream House the game, an unannounced Dungeons and Dragons project, Echoes of the End, Firewall Ultra, First Wars, Fortnite, Fort Solis, Georgie Cuddle Carnage, no idea. Hell is Us, Immortals of Aveum, Invincibles, sure. Instinction, Into the Echo, Kerrigan, Kingdom Hearts 4, when and if that ever comes out. Layers of Fear 2023. Lords of the Fallen, Low Light Combat, Lyra starter game. Something from Epic. I don't know what the fuck that is. Mortal Online 2. I had no idea that was on Unreal Engine 5. That's cool. I actually want to play that one. Mortal Right, Nightingale, Off the Grid, Paranormal Tales, Phantom Blade Zero, Primitive, Quantum Error, Rooted, R-Type Final 3, R-Type Tactics, Sinu's Saga Hellblade 2,
Yay for
Shadows of
kids.
Conspiracy, Silent Hill 2, Splitgate Universe Projects, Squirrel with a Gun, Stalker 2, Stormgate.
Oh, that game looks so freaking
Stray
good. Squirrel with a
Souls,
Gun
Tekken
looks so
8.
much fun.
The Day Before isn't a real game, so we're going to just delete that. The First
We'll see.
Descent, the Market of Light, The Matrix Awakens, which again isn't a real game, The Witcher 4, The Witcher Remake, Tomb Raider's next game, Unaware, Under a Rock, Unrecord, and War Robots. That's all of them. That's every single game that's coming to or is currently on Unreal Engine 5. Tim, welcome back.
Yes, kids. It makes life interesting.
Always.
Yeah, I mean, I think your focus is a little bit too much on Unreal Engine, but that's definitely going to be the one that really shows what the next gen or the current gen can do for sure.
And I'm not saying that's the only case, right? But like Unreal Engine 5 is brand new tech, and we're hardly even dipping our toes in it this generation.
Yeah. But again, imagine if you were able to do more. I mean, as a PC player, you understand, a new graphics card or a new CPU or something, more RAM comes out, and you're
It
like,
makes a
hell
huge
yeah.
difference. Yeah, it makes a huge
Yeah,
difference.
it makes a big difference. And even if it's not necessary now, we're finally getting to that point where these games are starting to release.
Yeah.
And being able to significantly boost the way the game looks or the way the game runs or whatever. I mean, I'll tell you now, when I bought a PS4 Pro, I was super happy about it because I got better frame rates on all my multiplayer games.
Same. Yeah.
The games, I had an advantage because I was on a Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And while that's unfortunate for everyone else, sucks to be you. You didn't buy a Pro.
Yeah, I mean,
but
yeah.
Like I said, for me, really, the whole thing is the price. Like right now, the most expensive PS5 is $500, but if they come out with something that's twice as powerful when the console is still $500, is this going to be a $700 or $800 console? Or are they going with the Xbox One X modeling where it was where it was quote a premium console where they weren't expecting everyone to buy it, which is weird because when you consider the Pro was basically the price of a PS4 and they dropped the price of the PS4 down at the time. That way you had the option, right? But more Pros sold. I'm pretty sure the Pro outsold the Series.
It did.
Or the One X by like 7-1 or something crazy like that. So
yeah.
clearly it didn't work for Microsoft.
Yeah. I don't see Sony doing that. I see them going more the way they did with the 4 and the Pro. They're going to drop the price of the original, make the price of the remake maybe even slightly higher than the original price, maybe make it $600 and say like, look, you've got a $200 difference between here, but this one has significantly better tech. As a gamer who is primarily PC, I can foresee myself, and I understand my situation isn't everybody's, totally get that and respect it. The struggle's real, guys. I get it. I can see myself paying $600 for a quote-unquote premium console. If that premium console is pushing 4K natively, HDR, and at least, here's the big kicker, at least 120 frames. I won't buy a 60-frame console. I just won't.
I mean, there's already games that run at 120 FPS, but the thing is it's not necessarily the system that can't do it. It's the developers making that choice to make it possible.
But as long as the system is capable of it, the tech is there, that generally means that your first-party titles will likely take advantage of that, right? Like Spider-Man would probably look amazing at 120. A hell of a lot better.
I'm going to tell you now it's not going to be the case. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis for the developer. I mean, you're already looking at games starting to run at 30. Just look at Starfield. It's a 30 FPS game. And that's becoming more... That's actually the first current gen only game that's going to be 30 FPS and only 30 FPS. There are other games that offer it as options, for your graphics modes, but none of them that are only 30. That's the first one. And it's kind of unfortunate to see that becoming slightly more acceptable. But, the amount of draw on power swapping from, say, 60 to 120 is probably too much for most developers to be able to swallow because they're trying to push graphics. Generally.
I don't know that that's the case. I really don't, because PC is able to do it with most games that are also on console. And yes, PC has better tech. I got that. But if we're talking about a top tier system here, I feel like being able to push 120 on it isn't outside the realm of possibility. Hell, I'd take 90. 90 looks significantly better. The difference between 60 and 90 is the difference between 120 and 144. I know, Tim, you're one of those guys that don't necessarily see a lot of difference, but to anybody out there,
it's not that I don't see it; it's that I don't care.
Sure, okay, you don't care. My apologies. The difference is such a visible difference from 60 to 90 that I'd take 90. If they can get games to run at a stable 60 and peak up to 90, I'm happy. But again, the games have to be there for me too. If Helldivers, I've said this before, I said this last week to Mike, if Helldivers 2 is not crossplay, it's a console seller. I'm going out to buy a PS5 to play Helldivers because the game looks so fucking fun. It's retarded.
It looks super good. Which is crazy too because the first one was just like your typical top-down type, twin stick shooter, but this one looks like such a huge advancement.
The first one was good though too, so
it was fun. But I'm just talking about the advancement and what they did with the game. It looks like a huge jump. Yeah, and I'm definitely pretty interested in it for sure.
Speaking of huge leaps, there has been a recent leak. I like that segue. That was pretty good. That there might be a Red Dead Redemption remake, not 2, Red Dead 1. Now the video on screen, listen to me, audio listeners, listen very carefully. The video on screen is a video made by a fan that is a Unreal Engine 5 test reboot trailer. It's a 1-for-1 shot of the original trailer recreated in Unreal 5, and it looks beautiful. If you're listening to this, please go to our YouTube, jump to the podcast. You're at minute marker, probably 30 something after we've done some editing. It's gorgeous. Check it out. youtube.com/coindroppod. VOD? VOD. Coindrop VOD. VOD. VODs. VODS. Go check it out. It looks gorgeous. Okay?
One of those.
One of those. It's VOD, Pod, VODs, something. You'll find it. Dude, if they remake this...
At this point, I don't even think it's a might. It's pretty much guaranteed at this point, man. There's been so many credible rumors. I mean, hell, they even actually, somebody data mined the official Rockstar website and found new artwork with essentially a new name for Red Dead Redemption. And I can't remember what they're calling it.
It was literally just Rockstar Presents Red Dead Redemption. So, like, I don't put too much stock in that. Yeah, I don't put too much stock in that.
I really hope that's not the case.
I do too. I don't put too much stock in that, but I would love to see. I mean, just looking at this trailer this guy built, dude, is freaking gorgeous.
So my hope really is that it's not a port, because if it's a port, then that's just lazy. And so let me just start from the beginning. The rumors have been coming out hard and fast. That's what she said, and. And there's been so many credible rumors from tons of different people that basically the game is not only going to come out, but it's going to come out soon, and that it's going to be an overhaul, like from the ground up remake. And I don't know if that's from the ground up remake on the Red Dead Redemption 2 engine. I don't know if it's going to be using all sorts of new tech, if it's going to be running on current gen only. Like, I don't know. None of that has been confirmed. Nothing has been confirmed. But the hell, they're even saying that it might release not next month, but September, which that's really soon.
So here's my only issue with it running off of Red Dead 2 engine. That came out in 2018.
Yes.
Give us Unreal 5 for fuck's sake. I'm sure it does, but god damn it, we've got Unreal Engine 5, guys. Stop.
Does Rockstar use Unreal Engine? I think they use
probably not. They probably use their own. Let's see.
They use their own custom engine. Yeah. So I mean, even if it was the Red Dead Redemption 2 engine, they would have definitely updated some technology, like they did with The Last of Us 2. Not they, but the way Naughty Dog did with The Last of Us.
Right.
So the thing is the thing that makes me now worried is something that our editor posted earlier today, but that supposedly it's coming to the Switch as well. And
that sounds like a port.
I know that makes it look like it sounds like a port, which it could be. It could be that they're coming out with two, a Switch port and a remake. You know, like it could be that, which would be the smart way to do it, because then you can get the Switch version to come out and people get the same game, but then the people who have current tech can play a newer version that's enhanced. And it makes me wonder, if it's a remake, right? Does that mean it's going to be essentially a 1-for-1 from the original, or are they going to add all sorts of new crap to the game? Which I really hope would be the case, but...
The common trend, Mike and I talked about this last week, the common trend with quote-unquote remakes has been that they add new features. It's been a thing since Resident Evil 2 remake, and I think probably before that, but Resident Evil 2 is the first one that comes to mind at the earliest moment. So it's entirely possible they add some new stuff. Now, the important thing to remember here too, and again, I have not played Red Dead 2, but I'm very well the story. I know the whole thing is a prequel, right? Red Dead 2 is a prequel to 1. Red Dead 2's story didn't really exist in Red Dead 1. So I could see them making some narrative changes. Because it was not that it really didn't exist. It was only background.
It was Marston's background. It was like, hey, I used to be part of a gang, and then they're like, okay, let's flesh it out into a video game.
Yeah, but now we have like real events. We have Arthur. We have the whole gang. We have the history of that. So I could see them making changes moving forward if it is a remake. Yeah. Honestly, with the fact that it is coming to Switch, I will bet money this is just a cash grab port from Rockstar, because they don't make new games anymore because they make too much fucking money off of GTA Online. That's just my pessimistic
I'm honestly
view of Rockstar,
expecting.
Unfortunately,
I'm expecting to be disappointed too. I mean, they're working on GTA 6, so they are making new games, but they're supposed to be making. I mean, actually, didn't they just announce Test Drive as well or something?
I don't fucking know, but dude, how long has it been since they released a game?
It's been a long time. 2018.
Yes,
but
exactly.
Actually, well, technically, they released the GTA trilogy, but that was a piece of garbage. So.
Yeah. And that should kind
the-
of clue you in on maybe that this is a port, and maybe the rain might white out the screen and make it entirely unplayable.
I know. I'm really hoping. I mean, the way that it's been presented, hell, even Jack Black stepped in. I don't know if you noticed, but a few
that
weeks
was a
ago,
weird one. That was a weird
yeah,
one.
yeah. Basically, for those that are listening, basically, Jack Black was wearing cowboy outfit, had a red shirt on underneath it that said redemption, and being Jack Black, did a funny little dance thing towards the camera and then just walked away, and that was it.
Yeah.
Is that paid for by Rockstar to kind of sort of hint / joke about it? I'm pretty sure Jack Black said he's a Red Dead Redemption fan at some point in his life.
At the very
I'm pretty
least,
sure
he's a gamer, so he's definitely played it, you know.
So he's played it, and this might just be him saying, "Yeah, please make it come out." You know, who knows?
Yeah,
I'm really hopeful, but I'm expectant to be disappointed.
Yeah, same. That's what
More or
Rockstar
less,
is for me at
more
this
or
point.
less.
I'm hopeful and I expect disappointment. So,
Yeah.
just looking at this trailer, man, I would love to see them remake it. I would love to see ray tracing and just amazing depth of field and just be immersed in it the way I was when it first came out, right? Like, it wasn't a bad looking game when it launched. When Red Dead launched, oh my god, dude, my brother and I used to talk for hours about the horse physics, the gunplay physics, the Euphoria engine, and being able to like shoot guys' legs out from under them. It was amazing.
And 2 literally took everything about 1 and made it better.
That's what I've heard.
They improved literally everything, and it was exponential improvement too. It's such a phenomenal game.
That's what I've heard.
And that's why, at the very least, I wish they would. Yeah, that's why I just wish it. Hopefully, it's a remaster, even in Red Dead Redemption 2 engine with 0 improvements. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah,
but obviously that wouldn't be the case. In any case, I we'll see.
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of it, man. That's where we're at. Everyone, thanks for listening. Tim, any final thoughts before we wrap up here and head over to the Patreon side?
So, actually, with the Red Dead Redemption remake, apparently Colin Moriarty, he used to work at IGN. He has his own thing now, this podcast or whatever. Apparently, he's straight up said that he's seen it.
Yeah.
So,
I don't put stock in IGN, guys.
He's not IGN anymore. He's got his own thing. He dipped out on them. But this guy he's somebody who knows what he's talking about and has a whole shit ton of contacts. So he's basically, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. He's also probably one of the guys that gave a game a low rating because it didn't have enough water. I don't like IGN if you can't tell.
IGN, they're sort of a joke.
Yeah, they're the only ones that make money doing it, and I respect them for that, but they also are the worst. So, well, that's not true. Kotaku's the worst.
Yeah, I was saying they're not Kotaku or Vice or whatever.
Yeah, whatever the fuck. Dude, Forbes makes video game articles now. That shit kills me. Fucking Forbes.
But they actually put out good stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Like, surprisingly.
They do. Surprisingly, but it still kills me that fucking Forbes.
Yeah.
Business fucking news is now doing video games. Anyways, I'm not going to rant about this. You can listen to us rant over on the Patreon side at patreon.com/CoinDropPod. Thanks for listening, guys, and make sure to share us with your friends and family. If you know other gamers, hey, send them our way. Come join our Discord, hang out. There's links on our Twitch, twitch.tv/CoinDrop. Vets. Jesus. Too many different CoinDrop acronym things at the end there. CoinDrop Vets is our Twitch. Come hang out with us. Play some games. Chill. Have a great night.